Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm Eric. Today I'm going to talk about a new release, a science fiction film, Disclosure Day, the new Steven Spielberg movie. I have the Empire magazine here, which had a big article on Disclosure Day and some photos from the film. I did see the film the other day, and I thought I would just talk about it a little bit. So this is Spielberg hasn't made a science fiction film in a while, and so this is a kind of a big event in film culture, I guess you could say. Anytime a new Spielberg movie comes out, it's a big deal. But I just want to talk about my thoughts on Disclosure Day a little bit. So I think at the first, I would say this movie is like Spielberg's greatest hits, where we see a lot of elements from his previous films, his science fiction films in particular, some of his other movies. This film is very much in conversation with Close Encounters of the Third Kind and E.T., both movies I reviewed, both classics that take a somewhat different angle to the idea of extraterrestrial life. And Disclosure Day is very much in conversation with those films, would be one way to put it. The look of the film is very much of the 2000s, when Spielberg was making Minority Report and AI movies like that, and visually Disclosure Day looks very much like those films, that those deep bluish black sheens throughout the film, a lot of chase sequences that are very much reminded me of Minority Report. So Spielberg's really drawing upon a lot of his previous films, and I thought effectively for the most part. So Disclosure Day, the film itself, it's very Spielberg. Like, there's a lot of action. The film starts out, first 10-15 minutes is a big chase sequence, and then we stop. We have moments of quiet emotion. We have character building moments, some exposition moments. Then we move to the action. So there's a definitely distinct rhythm to the movie. So this film is really about what happens on the day we learn that there is extraterrestrial life. And I guess that would have to be the ideas that organizations, governments are hiding this information, and maybe there'll be a day where they finally come out and you know, share their secrets on this issue. Now we've had almost 80 years now. What Roswell happened in 47, I want to say. Hopefully I'll get that right. But we've had 80 years of movies and documentaries and books about UFOs. They've influenced pop culture, TV, movies, so many things. So we've almost had a overwhelming amounts of information and theories about these things. You do wonder sometimes, do people still care about this issue outside of fringe groups who are still passionate about it? But the question of how people would actually react today, this brings up questions of religion, and would this disrupt people's religious beliefs? You get all sorts of answers on that question. Or would it create some sort of massive upheaval that we don't even know what that would look like? I always think part of it is, part of the power of governments is keeping secrets, keeping information from the people. And I feel like, not that I even believe that governments hold knowledge of extraterrestrial life. I'm like you, I have no way of knowing that, but I wonder if it's a power thing, though, where if something so explosive like that would be let out, would governments feel delegitimate or something? I don't know. That's just a theory I was thinking of, but those are some of the questions the film gets into. Yeah, and I think Close Encounters. That film came out at a different time in 1977. It's very much post-Watergate, post-Vietnam, and there was a lot of a breaking down of trust with institutions. So that was one of the themes or the atmosphere going over that film. And that's kind of a little bit of the same in Disclosure Day. I think cynicism, our culture has changed a lot since the 1970s. Our culture has changed a lot in the past 20 years since Spielberg made his last science fiction film. So that's, I think, a tension in this movie of how can you tell this story in a 21st century world, that in a world where people live in different ecosystems in terms of news and information, people walk around with different truths, based on the media that they consume. So we live in a somewhat more complicated world now, and I think that's one of the challenges of this film. Where can it navigate that? I think it did the best it possibly could in that regard, but that's what I thought. But this is definitely a Spielberg film. I mean, we have clearly the blockbuster era has passed, but we still get a lot of that. We get a lot of the style of Spielberg. I talked about the color schemes. We get the smooth camera movements. We get lens flares. John Williams came back and did the music for this film. Did the score. Just a lot of close-ups in this film, more than usual in a Spielberg film. A lot of close-ups on the characters, and I think that was intentional as well. So this film isn't so much about spectacle. Really, it's about people, and it's about emotion and memory and things like that, which might throw audiences for a loop in some ways. But Spielberg, the action scenes are fantastic, and the way he handles, I think, some of the emotional moments in the film are really handled with some real grace. And just to talk about the characters a little bit, Josh O'Connor and Emily Blunt are the two main characters in the film. Josh O'Connor plays a sort of a whistleblower who has a lot of information about government cover-ups, and he has this corporation that keeps the secrets, that's on his trail, that's trying to make sure the information he has won't get out. We have Emily Blunt, who we meet her at the start of the film, where she's she gives the weather at a station, I think, in Kansas City. She has ambitions to become like a news anchor. I think Wyatt Russell plays her partner in the film, and she has something happen to her where she suddenly discovers that she has these incredible cognitive abilities. And I won't go a bit beyond that, but those are really the two main characters in the film. And there's a specific moment with Emily Blunt's character where she makes a big emotional breakthrough. And I feel like Spielberg just handles that in a really, I felt, incredible way. I'm just at that. Yeah, I was impressed with that. Others in the cast, Colin Firth is in the cast, who plays the head of the corporation that's trying to keep the secrets. He's really good as an antagonistic character, and I even think that character kind of goes on an interesting journey through the film. But it's a good performance. It was kind of nice to see Colin Firth in a Spielberg film. I'm kind of put off vibes if you've ever seen Scanners. The Patrick McGowan character in that film. I don't know. I felt like they looked similar, and they kind of acted in a similar way. So he was good. Also, there's Coleman Domingo. Also mentioned him, who is kind of like the spiritual center of the film. If you've seen Close Encounters, the Francois Truffaut character in that film. So there's a lot of, I think, similarities between those two characters. And yeah, so he's really good in this film. I think Emily Blunt, I think her performance should be in the conversation through this year, but also Domingo as a supporting performance, I think really deserves some recognition. So yeah, good work from the cast. Um, so a few things in the film to mention. I do feel like the film hits its emotional high point about maybe 2/3 of the way through, maybe a little bit further. The last section of the film, I know there's been a lot of discussion and discourse on that. It might leave audiences wanting. There are some questions that are left unanswered. There's been questions about are we in like more of a 20th century scenario or a 21st century scenario? Like there, as far as the way people get their information these days, and is the film being accurate as far as how that would play out? So I just saw the film. I'm still kind of running it through my mind, but the ending is, in some ways, I respect what it did with the ending, but it'll be curious how my thoughts evolve on that as go back to the movie through the years. But really, though, it's a sci-fi thriller. It's not the movie Contact, or the Jodie Foster movie, Robert Zemeckis. That movie really gets into how people would react if evidence of extraterrestrial intelligent life were discovered, but also Arrival with Amy Adams is a really good film about the difficulty of communication if such an event ever happened. But Disclosure Day, like I said, it's more of a sci-fi thriller and almost like more of a psychodrama, where it's, like I said, it's really about emotion, and it's really about these characters, the theme of empathy being a superpower, and how that's, I think, a really strong message that the film brings across. And so the idea of being human, part of being human is being an emphatic person, and I thought was a great theme in the film. So it's a really humanistic movie, ultimately, I think we have with this Disclosure Day. Yeah. And I think as a good film does, too, it does kind of put you in a position of what would you do if you were in that situation. So I like it when stories do that. But yeah, I mean, Spielberg, he knows how to take audiences for a ride. I think it's a case of the journey in the film is almost more important than the destination. I think that definitely comes across. I think we see just seeing people connecting, achieving some transcendence, some knowledge about themselves. I think the film does a great job of doing that as well. And almost takes the bigger questions in the film about extraterrestrial life and how people would respond and its effect on human culture and everything. It is almost secondary to the emotional journey that the characters go through in Disclosure Day. So yeah, it's like I said, a really emotional film. Not so much on the intellectual side. Like I said, it's more about the characters and the people in the film. So yeah, those are my thoughts on Disclosure Day. Don't think I spoiled anything. Didn't want to get into anything too specific with the plot of the film. But if you're a Spielberg fan, I would definitely recommend it. Reactions online have been varied. I've seen some really positive reactions. I've seen some really dismissive and negative reactions. So that usually means a movie's doing something right when you get a lot of reactions across the board like that. So yeah. Like I said, I don't know how older Spielberg films will take this film, how younger people will take this film. I have no idea, but that's what I thought about Disclosure Day. If you did see it, you have any thoughts, feel free to comment. It'd be great to hear them. But otherwise, thanks for watching, and have a good day. Have a good one. Bye.